I write a Substack called Mother of a Dilemma for people who are on the fence about having kids. You can find the link to it in my bio. Today's post is about Fredkin's paradox, which I only heard about recently, and then when I heard about it, I kind of couldn't stop thinking about it, and I thought, wow, this really would be helpful for somebody who's completely 50-50 on the fence. I'm going to read off basically what Fredkin's paradox is because it's Friday and my brain's a little fried. But basically, it's this idea that the more equally attractive two options seem, the harder it can be to choose between them, even if the choice ultimately matters less. This means decision-making time can paradoxically increase as the perceived difference between options decreases. So a more everyday example of this might be like paint swatches. Like if you were going to paint a room either blue or green, if you had to look at those two colors, maybe you might decide you like the blue better. But then you have two different shades of blue that are very similar, and so you end up spending most of your energy obsessing over which shade of blue that you want to choose. And that sort of takes up the majority of your time and energy and gets you stressed out when they're very, very similar and close together. Another example might be if you're buying a car. Maybe you know you want an SUV versus a sedan, but then you get it down to these two SUV models that are very similar. And again, that's where you spend your energy obsessing. So when we're thinking about the decision of whether or not to have a child, it might seem like, well, this doesn't really apply because those two decisions are not similar. They could not be any more different, more polar opposite. And I totally hear you on that. I think what this might help with, though, is this idea of which scenario will I be happier in, or where am I going to feel the most satisfied? Maybe if you're truly 50-50 and you could see yourself going in either direction, maybe it's just more that those feelings are so similar that it can feel hard to decide. And the part of this paradox that I think could be helpful is this idea that as the options become more and more similar for you, your decision matters less. And I think here it's maybe to say it matters less because you could be satisfied in either choice. There's not going to be a right or a wrong choice. Either one could be a good choice for you. And I think what it really does is encourage us not to overthink a decision. Sometimes when decisions are very difficult and we're trying to make a decision, we end up spinning our wheels and thinking about it a little too much, and we overthink the decision, and that sort of keeps us stuck. And if you Google a lot about Fredkin's paradox, you'll see often there's Berdian's ass, which is a reference to it. And so basically, I'm reading from this one too. So in this case, what Berdian's ass is, if you've never heard of it, because I hadn't either, the hypothetical donkey positioned equidistantly between hay and water that is hungry and thirsty in equal measure and stays rooted to the spot, thus starving to death. So if we think about that for us, we see this path of like having a child might be really nice. I can see the advantages or the reasons that I might be pulled toward that. I also feel like being child-free could be a really good decision for me. I see how that could appeal to me. I see the reasons why I might want to choose that. And while we're here stuck in the middle, not going in either direction, we're suffering, right? This is where we're not enjoying the experience of having a child, and we're not even fully enjoying the experience of being child-free, even though we don't have kids. We are kind of living in this no man's land where we're like scared to make big purchases because what if I need that money, or I don't want to take this big out there job or take this big risk or chance because I may need the stability if we're going to decide to have a child in the next few months. I've got to kind of hold and wait. So we keep ourselves in this holding pattern, not really making any decisions, and therefore we're not really fully living a child-free life, if that makes sense. And we're hoping that if we really think hard about this, if we're comparing the two options side by side so carefully and closely, if we spend as much time as we can thinking about this, making pros and cons lists, that somehow we're going to think our way out of this situation. And the reality is that we won't. There's nothing that we can know about the future by thinking about it now. We have to experience it. And it's only in hindsight that we're going to know how our choice played out or what was the right or wrong answer. Although what I talk about often on this platform is that there is no right or wrong answer. We choose an option and then we make it the right choice for ourselves. If you're waiting for this perfect clarity to hit you where you know the exact right answer and how it's all going to play out before you decide, it's never going to come, and that's what's going to keep you stuck. You're going to stay there forever waiting for this thing that doesn't happen because it's just not possible. So we're going to have to decide. We're going to have to make the decision the best choice we can for ourselves. We're going to have to go all in on it and make it a great choice, make it the right choice. And it's really only through that we can find clarity after the fact. And I know that sucks. That's not what we want to hear, but it is the truth. And it's only that once you've accepted that you can really move forward and find kind of peace in your decision and not feel tormented and stuck. So if this is something that was really helpful for you, you can go, again, like I said, to the link in my bio. You can read my write-up about this. I have way more thoughts and, and put together a little bit better than I am on a Friday. And you can also reach out to me if you're interested in coaching. At that same link in my bio, you can find a place to sign up for a free 30-minute coaching consultation with me. I can work with you one-on-one, and we can help you get to the other side of this so that this is off your plate.